All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for attending the GFDA's monthly Q&A. This month, we are in talks with Fyrn, David of Fyrn, who is the co-founder of this incredible furniture company here in the Bay Area for anybody who is local. And I will allow David to go ahead and take it away and tell us about you. And thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Firdaus. Appreciate it. Appreciate you having us and giving us a space to talk a little bit about Fyrn and our role in the GFDA. Excited to be here and to do that. I am going to roll through a short presentation. I'll try to sort of keep things relatively high level, and I don't know if you're planning to ask some questions, but would love to have you interrupt me or ask questions at the end, so it's not all sort of one way. But I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and just for the audience, if you'd like to go ahead and type anything into the chat, I'll try and field those as they come in. There will also be towards the end kind of an open Q&A as well. So just so that everyone knows that they have the opportunity to ask.
Awesome. Also appreciate folks showing up to check this out. So here we go. Okay, there's a picture of me with a lot of big hair. So I'm Dave, one of the co-founders of Fyrn, along with my partner Ross, who's there in the back left. Fyrn is a design and build company, mostly focused on furniture at the moment. We're out of the Mission District in San Francisco, but we're also in the midst of expanding our production in Reno, building a much larger facility, which will allow us to bring some new products to market, which we're super excited about. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a while. Today, we're going to sort of break this up into three parts. So we'll talk a little about what we make. We'll talk about our sustainability practices, and then a little bit of dialogue around sort of what we're trying to do to sort of, push forward more conversation in the industry and partner with folks who are like-minded. So what we make. We started with a line of seating. Everything that we've done to date has sort of been centered around this initial product line, which we call STEM. It's what we view to be an iconic line of seating, and the Mariposa that you see there is sort of at the foundation of that. We've been fortunate to be spec'd in beautiful homes as well as lots of public spaces across the country. This is Silver Oak up in Healdsburg. If you're from the Bay Area, you've probably sat in one of our chairs at a bar or a restaurant. We've got some great partners, folks like Flower and Water and Octavia and Slanted Door, amidst other folks. The system that I want to talk about today is called STEM. That's sort of the underlying system that we've built everything around. Ross spent a number of years developing both the intellectual property in the bracket that you see there, which is also called STEM, as well as a number of proprietary manufacturing processes that allow us to produce the furniture very effectively and sustainably. So going to talk about the different ways that we think about the phases of production and holistically about how to produce furniture in an effective manner. So we start with design. Unlike a lot of companies, I would say, that are sort of focused on sustainability, we're not iterating towards a slightly better outcome. We started at the forefront of what Fyrn was doing, thinking about how to create a system of furniture that would allow for minimal use of materials in the production process, very high yields, very effective use of those materials that we are sort of pulling from the earth to produce the furniture, but also a system that would then allow for that furniture to be serviced and owned in a circular manner. And so that starts with a parts and piece system. I've got an example of sort of how our system fits together here. This is a bracket that will connect to wood and has a simple screw back. All of the sort of connections result in components that can be easily replaced and repaired if needed, but also allows us to be efficient in in all phases of production. So we need less room for storage. We're able to ship products in a very effective manner. And it all starts with sort of the original design of this system and how it's produced. When we talk about the build, we really look to source very simple natural materials. So we're working with North American hardwoods, anodized aluminum and steel for the most part. There's also some natural materials in our upholstery, leather, as well as some synthetics for a leather alternative. When we source products, raw materials, we look to do that as close to home as possible. So most of what we are sourcing is originating domestically, looking to minimize the distance that those things are traveling. And then as we're producing, it's our goal to always be producing close to, not only close to where those raw materials are, but sort of keeping our team and company connected to domestic production. So it's not to say we'll never go international, but we do want to be producing these here in America and shining a light on American manufacturing and sort of the innovation in the manufacturing space that we believe we're bringing. We also, in thinking about how not to waste materials, we've created some programs and some systems that allow us to put, let's call it, parts and pieces that aren't up to our aesthetic standards, our sort of very high aesthetic standards for new product, out into the world through an exchange, which is sort of a marketplace that sits on our website, and we will put shop seconds, components, or samples, or any product that's sort of been out in the world can come back to us and be sold on that exchange. So sort of thinking about ways to not end up with lower yields on the materials or wasted furniture that has to gone out into the world and doesn't now have a home. Similarly, in the shopping experience, let me sort of advance this, sorry. In the shopping experience, we think it's important to sort of minimize the waste that happens in that process, and also to maximize the confidence that folks have in the purchases that they make. So we have what we call FIT. It's called the Fyrn in-home trial. What that allows for, we're selling seating initially. Folks are usually buying multiples, let's call it, 4 to 8 units to put around a dining table or at a counter. We want to make it easy for folks to make a confident decision. And so we send a single item flat to their home. They're allowed to trial it for 3 to 4 weeks. And in that trial process, decide, do I have the perfect finishes, or do I love this piece of furniture? If they don't, they can send it back to us. There's no cost to the customers. And we take those pieces and we put them on the exchange for resale. The exchange does a few things for us. One, it gives us a place for those pieces that aren't needed, but it also lowers the barrier to entry for people who love our design and the quality of the products, who may not be able to buy new items. And so we appreciate sort of having that place for them to engage with Fyrn and to be able to purchase things. I think one of the dirty little secrets of the furniture industry is, and particularly when you think about it in the terms of companies that are selling mattresses or large objects, a lot of things don't even go through a return process. If you don't want the item, folks will, companies will ask you to just sort of dispose of it, and they'll give you a credit. There's a ton of furniture that's broken in transit, and so making for an easily transportable experience where someone has the ability to return an item easily, makes for, in our opinion, less waste. Owning the furniture. So once you have a piece of our furniture and you receive sort of a full order, if you're on the residential side, then we want to make it easy for you to live with that piece and not feel like it has to be too precious. So again, going back to an easy part or piece replacement at a point in time allows for folks to sort of have something of high quality, live with it in the way that they want to as a tool for their home, and then we're here to support you into perpetuity for a repair or replacement part. And we take that even a step further, which is if you get to a place in your life where you no longer want to live with our furniture for any reason, your tastes change, you're moving to another place, you'd like to make a different environment for your living room or your kitchen, we'll buy back that piece of furniture, and we can do that again because we'll take those pieces and we'll easily refurb them and put them on that exchange for resale. So in sort of thinking about all phases here of our product's life cycle, we create a sort of a platform for that furniture to live on for decades or generations, hopefully. And then the last piece of this is sort of the community of folks that we engage with. I think that these principles sort of create a lens for us to identify who are the suppliers we want to work with, who are the types of partners that we want to find. And so, folks like Katie and the GFDA and the members that are here, create an environment for us to have discourse and conversations about what we can do to improve. When we think about who we want to have out in the world, sort of selling our furniture, particularly in the commercial space, we look to find sort of like-minded partners who have these same principles. That kind of brings me to part three. I want to talk a little about our multi-line rep group, which is Denver Enterprises, led by Holland Denver. Last year, they created a sustainability check. This is really a very cool. This is really a very cool website, and I encourage folks to go visit it. Firdaus, maybe you can drop the link in the chat there. It's at the bottom of the slide, so people can go and sort of explore this after. What I think is really neat about working with Denver and about finding other brands who are at the early stage of their journey focused on sustainability is that there's a ton of contemporary companies that are very progressive in the way that they manufacture, sell, and distribute furniture. But unfortunately, it's not always easy to know about those companies or to understand what practices they have that are different. So the sustainability check is a really cool way to understand sort of what the consideration set is for how to make good choices. What's different about this relative to a lot of what's out there sort of in the discourse is large companies sort of participate in certification. So when we say the problem is pay to play, you see standards that are created, whether it be LEED certification or Green Guard, which are really tailored towards large companies having the ability to participate in ways that small companies can't, even when small companies are doing more to be sustainable than some of their larger counterparts. An example of this in another industry would be farmers who are small farms that are doing organic farming, and their practices are at or better than the levels that someone who can pay to have an organic certification stamped on every piece of fruit that they sell. So we're looking to sort of continue to shine a light on the smaller companies that are doing positive things. Another place that we see sort of large companies, and really all companies these days, set up an expectation for customers that's not always true is greenwashing. There's a lot of great marketing happening today that allows consumers to feel like they're making a great choice. Big headlines about shifts by companies towards more sustainable raw materials can be good air cover, while a lot of their products continue to be sort of cheap and disposable, and there's a ton of waste in the manufacturing process. So I think it's important to sort of take some responsibility as consumers to go a little bit deeper and understand who we're engaging with as companies. I love this tool as an opportunity to sort of share the things that we're doing as a company. So carbon footprint, just at a high level, everyone's sort of aware that, ideally we'd be living in a carbon neutral world. I think what's important for us as a company is not just to be in a position to purchase large carbon offsets and be carbon neutral, but to actually think about from the onset, how do we create less waste? How do we minimize the transportation of our materials and our products? How do we create a system where less carbon is produced in the first place versus solving a sort of dirty problem through an offset or something of the like. Thinking about materials, we talked a little about what our materials are as a company. One of the things that we try to do is make sure that most of the products that we're designing are utilizing the same materials, which allows us to be really efficient in the use of those materials. Just to say it again, sort of use North American hardwoods, aluminum and steel, which are both sort of infinitely recyclable. And then we have a number of, based on our practices, while I don't think all certifications are bad, and I think that on the whole, trying to contribute towards them makes sense. So in our processes, we have a number of LEED certifications that we do qualify for larger commercial projects, which include construction waste management, a percentage of our content being recyclable that's over 30%, and then low emitting materials. As well as if you're completing a project in the Bay Area, anywhere within 100 miles of Fyrn, you can get credits for for utilizing a local manufacturer. Some of this is repetitive to what I talked about earlier, but just to give you a sense of what's in the sustainability check, I think it's really important for companies to design around the ability to service a product long term. So, with us, we've designed this system around part replacement and repairability being easy, but there's lots of ways to do that. And what's really important is sort of changing the practices that we've seen through planned obsolescence and otherwise, where it's actually made difficult to be able to repair a product, and it's done purposely by companies so that you'll have to buy something new. I love the concept of sort of changing the way that we think about the design and production of things, such that they truly should be able to be used, for decades or generations. And what we try to do is make sure that we don't put that responsibility entirely on the consumer, and that we create platforms and programs that will allow us to facilitate that second or third life for those products in time. Recycled packaging, flat pack furniture. So recycled packaging in this day and age should really just be sort of the bare minimum. I think it's not that challenging if being thoughtful about how to produce packaging that will allow for it to be recyclable or compostable. And, we're doing all that we can to sort of create packages that do that. Flat packing is more challenging depending on the type of furniture. But we have, and we don't believe that everything should be flat packed, but when there's an opportunity to sort of take up less space in a truck, to make it easier for transport to be efficient, that's a wonderful thing to do. And it facilitates all the different elements of a better shopping experience and a better sort of service experience. So we're pretty proud of creating products that have the ability to flat pack in many cases. So what happens to the waste? No matter what you do in producing products, there's going to be waste of some kind, and sort of acknowledging that and thinking about how to, one, minimize it, but two, create outlets for our scrap materials to find a new home. So when it comes to additional upholstery materials, we've repurposed a lot of those actually through the GFDA marketplace, giving sort of folks an opportunity to use the pieces that aren't going to work for us for upholstering a seat or a back to our furniture, but will work for somebody to make a strap on a purse or to use a creative project in art. There's lots of places to find for those excess materials to go, and we continue to find ways to find partners. Even inside our shop, and this gets harder as we grow, but there's a repurposing of the packaging that comes in from other vendors. So if we get little plastic bags or we get containers that we can utilize around the space, we tend to do that. And it's a small thing, but it ultimately minimizes the things that are going in our garbage cans, and that's what we're striving to do. And then just, in closing, I think, what I would say for Fyrn is we try to be incredibly thoughtful about the choices that we're making, but there's always sort of opportunities for improvement and places that we can do better. One of the things that is top of mind for us as a company, as we're growing, is how do we continue to sort of keep the values that we have in place, and not cut corners and make those compromises that are easy to make when growth and profit are top of mind. I hope that we're building a team that will hold ourselves accountable, and that we have partners out there that will continue to push us to the right place. But that's not easy. Folks like the GFDA are wonderful in sort of keeping these choices top of mind, and so I appreciate that that community who's helping us to do that. And that's it for the presentation. Yeah.
It's amazing. Thank you so much, David. I actually jotted down quite a bit, a few notes and things, but I wanted to give the audience an opportunity. If anyone feels comfortable turning on their video and asking a question, feel free. If you want to pop any questions or comments into the chat, go ahead now. But I actually jotted down a few things. And one of the things I recently read was that I hear that there is some new legislation being introduced to encourage repairing. So it was targeting maybe those larger corporations that sort of make it's not even disposable products, but they're just things that you can't repair. So in a way, they are disposable. So do you feel like legislation at a federal level will probably allow more people to, see what Fyrn is trying to do as, this is really the direction we need to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think any steps towards a discourse around why products are produced the way that they are and what has driven, the choices that are being made by consumers today. Anything that brings that out into the forefront and causes a conversation is good. Obviously, legislation, can be really useful in forcing folks to, you know, to make different decisions as a manufacturer. But I think at the end of the day, like real change in a lot of cases has to be demanded by the consumer base. And companies have really trained us to accept the convenience of maybe speed or something costing less as the priority in the decision that we make for what we buy, without really understanding the sort of long-term ramifications of that. And I think that hopefully companies like us and others who sort of bring forward an opportunity for education for consumers about those materials and the processes and how things are made, just gives people a deeper connection to what they buy and bring into their home, and allows them to feel proud of that, and then sort of care about whether it should last. I think, I'd love to see everything have to be produced in a manner that is going to be repairable, but that's a little bit unrealistic. And so I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I think that
Oh,
any
yeah,
discourse that pushes that forward is good.
I agree. I think that anything that allows consumers to be more conscious about what they purchase and why, and, beyond just what that product is right now today, but in, how it would affect the future and what it means for that object, and its path. All right, I see a comment from Clea that says, I believe Sweden offers tax credits for repairs rather than replacements of furniture and appliances. This would be amazing because it would incentivize consumers to buy repairable products and also creates jobs and value for repair skills. I agree. I like that. Um, so another question. So kind of on that note, so we had touched upon greenwashing, and I feel like every company is trying to kind of get in on that action, trying to say, look at us, we are doing our best, in whatever way that they're defining their best is. So what would you say makes something maybe like a red flag where you can easily say, this seems like greenwashing? Because it's hard to know without actually knowing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an incredibly tough question, and I actually think it's part of what makes our job really, really challenging as a company. To be perfectly honest, like one thing that is really difficult as a young brand, or any brand for that matter, is trying to say like, no, 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 we're really doing it, the right way. And like, because the messaging starts to become very ubiquitous. And so I think that as a consumer, particularly as marketing gets more sophisticated and targets us, and the photography is better, and and the language all starts to sound the same. I think there's a few things that, as a consumer, that I would be trying to do. One is looking for places where I can really put my hands on something, right? Like I think one of the things that led me to being excited about this system and what Fyrn could do was almost a response to experiencing myself cheaper and cheaper materials. Everything that used to be wood was suddenly plastic, or metal was suddenly plastic. The actual, you can tell when you sort of get something in the mail for the first time, and that's how we mostly get things these days. Is it of quality? And I think I would rely on sort of third parties. Thing testing is kind of an awesome site because it's not reviews coming from the companies themselves, but it's coming from a third party. Putting your hands on something before you buy it is always great. And then, I think really making sure that when we do find things that are of quality, or products that we're proud to own, that we talk about that both with our community and sort of loudly, because it means a ton to the companies. It's also a way for the folks that that have found something that really is worthwhile and sort of making an investment in, to help make sure that thing will be around because they're supporting it by by spreading the word. It's hard to trust companies these days, and I don't really know how you solve it other than making great products and letting the products speak for themselves. And hopefully that leads to people wanting to learn more about the process and the people behind it.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I personally have a hard time vetting, all these companies that say, we do X, Y, and Z, and this is why we're great. Choose our product. And as a consumer, you can only rely on what they put out there on their websites. And so I feel like we just need to take those steps. It might take some homework, but I think that at this point, we need to do some of that work and put in that effort, I think. Otherwise, we'll just be blindly following. So thanks for that. I had another thing. So I actually was really interested in all the different avenues that Fyrn kind of allows for sustainability to play a hand. So you've got the FIT program, you've got the bracket so that maybe some piece of it could be repairable, and you have that buyback program as well. So all of these avenues that Fyrn puts effort into, do you find that, for example, your clients or people that you speak to are taking advantage of these kinds of services, and are these things that other companies should be doing more of, and it might create kind of like a consumer idea that this is what they should be doing. They should expect these kinds of things from their companies.
Yeah, I would say, we're learning. A lot of what we do comes from a pretty methodical and sort of deliberate R&D process, and then testing it in the market. And we're always evolving not only the product but the programs that we're developing. And so when I think about our people using it, I would say 100% it's been a huge attribute for getting people to try Fear. And so, not everyone knows about us as a company, but knowing that I have zero risk in trying a product, and that I get to actually live with it, sit in it, touch it, feel it. It doesn't have to be perfect. There's no restocking fee. There's no charge in the shipping going back. It means a lot more people are willing to explore a brand they don't know. And going back to your last question, have confidence that that thing actually is nice. And I would say in that phase of things for us, it's just as satisfying when someone makes a decision not to purchase as it is when they make the decision to purchase. And we can do that for a couple of reasons. One is our system underlying, the ability to flat pack, the efficiency around the production. But 95% of people that actually try a piece buy more. And so that lets us, and if we didn't have a great product, this system wouldn't work for us, right? And I think knowing that we have a great product and that we can feel confident in that lets us be able to have programs that are somewhat unique. When it comes to the exchange and the buyback, like ultimately that is a nod in my mind to what is the customer expression of letting this system of design and furniture kind of live up to its highest potential. And in a perfect world, we would love to retain the stories of where these pieces have been, and that people would actually be excited about having a chair that once was in a restaurant in San Francisco or in some, a musician's home, or just sort of frankly has that history attached. I believe that if we can be successful at bringing some of these programs more mainstream and show that great products can be produced in America, and while still not cheap, give the value that you deserve when you make an investment in a nicer piece. Setting those examples really shows other companies that I don't always have to go to a race to the bottom of the cheapest thing produced in the cheapest way so that I can make the most profit and then try to sell that to someone as many times as possible. I do think there's better and more effective business models that also are better for the planet and the consumer. And so showing that through our, that's basically why Fyrn exists. Ross wanted to show that there was a better way to produce a product that kind of lived up to these standards. And he took the time to invest in developing that system and these processes. And I think that we're all, as consumers and companies, in a rush very frequently to sort of get to the right answer fastest. it takes a lot of deliberate time to get to those examples. But the more examples that are out there, the more likely that more will come. So I hope so.
Yeah, I agree. I think it will slowly kind of become more popular, more common to see. We have a few questions actually for you, which is nice. So Ashley asks or says, so happy to have watched this and learned about your company. Thank you. I haven't had a chance to check out your website yet, and will you do so after? And will do so after the Zoom ends. But are your items fully customizable? Can the wood stain, upholstery, leg height, etc., all be made to order?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Thanks, Ashley. What is customizable for us is there's a number of choices. You can get a design kit, which will have all of these options for you to be able to sort of make a good choice before you do a fit piece. But we have customization around what wood type you use, so both species and finish, what the metal brackets are. There's 4 different finishes, and then whether you want upholstery or not. What we don't customize is outside of our sort of standard offering are the heights of the furniture, the silhouette of the furniture. And the reason we don't do that is because we want it to be sort of infinitely repairable, serviceable, and reusable. And if you make those customizations, what ends up happening is that piece is great for that specific person in that specific moment, but then doesn't have the ability to sort of relive through the system and let us easily support it. So we've made the choice that we do our best to provide a product that we're proud of and an offering that we think has enough flexibility to customize for a project, but we draw the line on certain changes that won't allow it to sort of meet our standards long term.
That's amazing. All right. So we have another question from Megan. Do you sell mostly straight to consumer or do you offer a trade program for the design trade? Also, how do you manage samples for our client presentations? I try not to have much of a physical library because it's so wasteful, but we do need samples along the way.
Yeah, so our business is about half, residential direct to consumer and about half sort of trade and commercial folks. We do a ton of work to support both in the buying process. On the trade side, we have that design kit, which is a really nice kit. It's crafted in a way that it'll fit on your bookshelf, and the samples are of a pretty high quality. It's not a one-time use. On the residential side, we actually set those up to come back to us and be reused multiple times, so that the samples themselves are circular. If you want to try a piece of furniture as a designer for your client, it's the same process. We're happy to send it out. We send it out within a day or two. On the professional side, we don't always send a new piece. We sometimes will send an in-house sample that is of the silhouette, but not the finishes that you want. Although we can spec it straight to what your client's needs are. And again, there's no cost to do that. So we can send it to you if you're not in the Bay Area. If you're in the Bay Area, you're welcome to come by with your clients or on your own, take a tour of the facility, do a sit test firsthand, or pick up a memo and bring it to your client site. All those pieces that we put out into the world for commercial samples or for memos or trial, they end up on the exchange. The exchange is where we'll then sell the slightly used pieces at a lower price point.
Amazing. Do you have an email that I could share in the chat for anybody who has some inquiries?
Yeah,
About
info at Fyrn. So info at fyrn.com is where you can get in touch with our team. I should mention that our team's amazing. So, we have an incredible customer team who often up on a first name basis with both our trade and home clients, and gets called out by name in our reviews. It's really if you have questions, please reach out to them because they're incredibly helpful. And our production team is incredible as well. And if you do visit the factory, you get a chance to sort of see the people who are making the furniture firsthand. There's a ton of care and love that goes into every piece that we make, and that's because those folks that are here every day making the furniture really sort of see that I don't know, they put their best selves into it, and we're grateful for that.
Well, that's really amazing. And so in terms of seeing the facility, because I know we talked about that a little bit earlier before we started, but could, somebody who's interested in checking out, the process, can they email info at Fyrn and maybe take a tour?
Yeah, so you can make appointments to see the facility in San Francisco anytime. We're here Monday to Friday, 9 to 4 generally, or when we'll take on folks. You can do a sit test and try the furniture, or if you just want to see production and get a firsthand look, um, happy to do that with people who are interested in learning more.
Amazing. I have another question I wrote down. So I was really interested in the piece that you were talking about, the flat packing and the packaging. So you were mentioning that a lot of things make sense to flat package and some don't. So I was wondering, what makes something challenging to flat pack and when should it not be flat packed? And, how does that overall impact, what you feel would be a good sustainability measure?
Yeah, so I think, we try to take every one of those decisions and look at them independently instead of saying we flat pack everything, or if you're not flat packing, you're making a mistake. And I can give you a couple examples. Our chairs and stools all flat pack because if you think about the silhouette of a chair, there's a ton of air there. There's a lot of wasted space. It takes a very large package and a lot of support in order to move a chair or stool across the country. And so having that be flat packable, the challenge historically has been how do you make a really high quality piece that has the engineering that'll allow for the joinery and the joints to support, to support weight and movement and still ship flat. That's the genius in my mind of this system is those patented parts allow for that to happen and still have a really high quality piece. I don't think there's a lot of products out there in seating that can do that, and that's why you don't see a lot of flat pack seating.
Mhm.
Um, when we think about our next line, which is going to be a nested table series, they're nested tables. So you could ship 3 or 4 items in the same box that you ship one. The size of the package and the way that the tables are designed would not be that different if it was flat versus not flat. And so we look at that and go, well, there's no reason to create a flat package that puts assembly on the back end into play when we can ship it for almost the same efficiency fully assembled. And so that's the kind of calculus that we go through. I don't think there's perfect decisions. We may refine those over time, but ultimately it's just sort of thinking about the whole holistically about the experience. How do we waste the least amount of materials in the packaging? How do we take the least amount of space in transport? And how do we make the customer's experience a positive one?
Yeah, that's amazing. I appreciate that holistic approach that you guys have taken. And I know that holistic is a very broad term and can be, I liked the reference to Mardi Gras beads. It does kind of get thrown around just like greenwashing and things like that. But, for the GFDA to work with, companies such as yourself and others, it's really nice to show people how it can be done right and done well. Let's see, another question. The sustainability checklist that you had flashed on the screen earlier, is that something that individuals would use or companies or orgs? And how is it used?
Yeah, so we worked in tandem with Denver. They spearheaded this, the creation of this. I think it's for anyone. I think that what's cool about it is that it shares a lot of background and information about the industry and the places in which consumers can be misled, or large companies are at an advantage over small companies, or the areas that, as a manufacturer or as a designer, you can look to understand which companies are participating in things that you care about. And so I think it's the kind of framework that if you're on the manufacturing side, you can go, well, where can we improve? And hopefully it's a living, breathing tool that evolves. If you're on the speccing side as a designer or an architect, you can use it as a resource to say, well, which companies are living up to the standards that I care most about or that I believe in, even if they're not part of a certification process that benefits the certifier or largely large companies. And so I think it's a tool for everyone. I think it's a great education tool if you want to learn more. And I think it's a roadmap for people to make sure that they're thinking about the different aspects of production.
Yeah, I think checklists are always a good tool for, big picture things for whether it's an individual or an organization or a company to kind of give them a framework to work towards, sustainability. And at the GFDA, we also don't expect zero waste. We never use the word zero waste. We always say low waste because we want to be reasonable in our expectations of what we can do and to strive to do the most. And so on that, how hard or challenging is it to source sustainable raw materials? Because I know you talked about aluminum and North American hardwoods. Has that process been easy or straightforward?
Um, Nothing about what we're doing is easy.
It never is it?
So I think that on a relative basis, we're at a real advantage to a lot of other companies right now, and that the last 2 years have shined a light on supply chain challenges, and in particular, the moving of goods across oceans and around the world, and into ports. And what we have that most companies don't is a very short supply chain with a very limited, in general, a very limited number of materials relative to other companies. With that said, there have been heroic efforts made by our team over the last 2 years to make sure that we can continue to produce and deliver and have the materials that we need in-house when we need them in order to do that. It's been, a real battle, particularly in the last 18 months when you see our raw material suppliers having the same challenges we are, with folks out because of COVID, with interruptions in the supply chain, with the quality of the materials that we used to receive actually diminishing just because people are taking shortcuts because they don't have the same resources that they did, or they're just under pressure to get things out the door. So nothing is really easy about it, but I think we have started from a place that allows us, in time, I believe we'll continue to get better at this, that allows us to be really effective and not complicating the sourcing of those materials or the types of materials that we're looking for. And the fact that we produce internally is always giving us opportunities to continue to be more efficient and to minimize the wasted material and to improve the yields. And so, I like the place that we're starting from, and I think it's been very deliberate, but it's been incredibly challenging.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. I think with COVID, with how it's affected the world for the last 2 years, every industry has been impacted and everyone has seen delays and changes, and our expectations just need to shift. So, our instant gratification culture has really, taken a bruise to the ego about, waiting. So I think we needed this. We needed to realize that we have to pause, we have to slow down. Things can't be done at lightning speed anymore. It's not sustainable in any measure, not by human measure or the earth's measure or anything like that. So, sometimes I feel like I see a little bit of a silver lining in that forced slowdown. I mean, it's not ideal, but maybe we needed that. So then, David, what do you see are, the future plans for Fyrn? And, do you have any forecasts for what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, we're for the first time we've done nearly a decade of sort of what I'll call deep R&D around our product, our manufacturing process, our customer programs. We're really investing in growth for the first time. The facility that we're building in Reno, Ross, my partner and co-founder, is up there now, sort of getting that facility off the ground. Just for context, we're moving from a really inefficient 5,000 to 6,000 square feet, and in 3 different rooms in San Francisco, to 40,000 square feet and an open floor plan that allows us to take all the learnings we've had and really start to be incredibly efficient in producing our existing products. But also that opens the door to finally bringing so many of the prototypes and designs that have been developed over the years into production, and sort of expanding our offering, which is really exciting. We're making a number of hires in our leadership team and throughout the organization to kind of professionalize our business and to sort of start to elevate a lot of not only our practices but our mission as a company. And so I'm just really excited to see and learn from the new folks who are coming here to build Fyrn into something that I hope can set a great example in the industry and beyond. I think, in full transparency, I think Ross and I were unsure of exactly where we wanted to go with this business, but in the last year, did a lot of soul searching and decided that in order to have the biggest impact, we really need to grow the business. And now I'm super excited about where we go next. And to be honest, I mean, we have plans, but not all plans sort of end up leading to where you land. So it's going to be fun to see where things go from here.
Absolutely. That's so good to hear. It's nice to see that growth is on the horizon for you and your team. It's been really, really nice actually getting to know Fyrn and seeing what you guys do. I wanted to thank you so much for, sharing with us, sharing with, the audience, everything that you learned and seeing how you guys do business. It's been really great. And I was just going to maybe leave another 30 seconds for anybody who had any last comments or last questions. And if not, I wanted to say thank you everyone for attending. David, do you have any last things that you wanted to say?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say thank you for giving us this space to talk about fear and to pursue this type of dialogue. It's something that we appreciate, and I've really had a good time. I guess sort of once you settle down, get talking about the business, and thanks for everyone who showed up. And I would encourage anybody who's here or anybody that thinks that others would benefit from learning more about us to reach out. We really enjoy sort of sharing what we're up to with folks, and whether that be in person at a tour or or through the team. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. And Megan says something real nice. She says, thank you for bringing this to the table. I have added a new vendor to my list. So yeah, thanks. I think we all have a takeaway from this. So we really appreciate your time too.
Thank you, Firdaus, and thanks everyone. Thanks, Megan. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, have a good day, everybody. And I'll go ahead and post this recording and you'll have it in your emails sometime next week.
Wonderful.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bye, David. Thank you.